I said, there's not enough ladies out there that want to do it. And plus, no one's going to want to fish for 6 days straight for 8 to 10 hours a day. I just don't know many women that want to do that. And I couldn't have been more wrong. And I'm the first to admit, I misjudged my own sex. You know, I had no idea. And I kept getting Instagram messages from women saying, hey, I want to go on a women's trip. I want to do this with you, but I would really feel more comfortable if it was women's only. And I just kept kind of saying, you know what? That's just not my jam. I kind of open it up to everyone. I like hanging out with the boys, or the men and whatever. But, no, that's not really my thing. And the more emails I got, I had to start really considering it.
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer Podcast, inspiring real women with a passion for fishing in the outdoors to go get their adventure on. Now, here's your host, Master Captain Angie Scott.
Welcome, everyone, to another fun episode of the Woman Angler and Adventurer Podcast. It's iCast week down in Orlando, Florida, and I am currently recording this from the beach, so you might hear some waves in the background. Hopefully it's not too loud, but I'm ready to kick off. Today starts with the Toho Cup tournament and some women's events this afternoon, so stay tuned for future episodes and other content that I'm going to be captioning this week. It's so much fun every year down in Orlando to see everybody, and it's my honor and privilege to get to attend and work hard to bring you this coverage and information for those of you who can't make it to iCast. All right, so since we're just getting started, this week I'm bringing you an episode featuring a special guest I've wanted to have on the show for quite some time, and who won't unfortunately be able to make it to iCast this year due to her incredibly busy fishing and travel schedule. But nonetheless, it's an honor for me to bring you her story via our phone conversation as she preps to head up to Lake of the Woods for some no doubt epic fishing adventures. But without further ado, I'm excited to introduce you to entrepreneur, world traveler, fishing trip host, world record breaker, fly angler, conservationist, and much more. Please welcome to the show, Meredith McCord. Meredith McCord, welcome to the podcast. I was looking on your website and I read what you have down for your mission. And it's kind of funny because even though I don't do trips, like our missions are very, very much aligned. So it reads, just so those who aren't aware, to inspire, educate, and empower others to be the best angler that they can be, all the while having fun, making new friends, and catching fish in beautiful places. So I love that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, it's pretty bold and kind of all-encompassing, but it's hard to put a limit to what I want to do.
Oh, I hear you. I agree. So I want to just start off by talking about some of these trips because it looks like you've got connected and have taken people to some pretty amazing destination locations for fishing.
I mean, I think so. I sometimes have to pinch myself to say, oh my gosh, really? Mongolia and, to Argentina, Brazil, Chile. Yes, I feel very, very fortunate to have been able to travel the world and see these remarkable places, get to know cultures, experience cultures, the people, the food, that God created. I mean, it's just, it's so wonderful that fishing can give you such a purpose to explore the world.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you have some amazing pictures to show for it too. That's for certain. So these trips, are they like all-inclusive trips that people just, all your meals are included and that sort of thing, or how does it work?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it is all inclusive except for the basics of like getting there. Mm-hmm. If, more of that commercial flight, for example, I'm taking a couples group down to Brazil in September, and they will be responsible for getting to Manaus, Brazil, which is right there in the Amazon. But then the trip package includes that flight from Manaus to the lodge, which is a mothership that sits on the Rio Marie River. Yeah.
Awesome. So it seems like somebody wanting to do one of these destination trips, this would be a great way to go about it, because you're not just on your own. It sounds like guided the entire way once you get to whatever destination you need to get to. And I'm sure for people, especially somebody who's never done something like that before, it's a much safer environment to explore some of these areas.
I agree with that. And it just, so it is. So I'll kind of walk you through it. So once you get to the location, often you'll find that people are connecting through similar cities. And so with my hosted groups, I make sure that I kind of get everyone's flight information and put people in touch with each other that are coming from different parts of the world or the US. So that's number one. And then once you arrive into the meetup city, I also usually, like, for example, we're going to be arriving in Manaus kind of pretty much a day early so that we make sure everyone, if there are any delays, no one misses that really crucial flight to the lodge, which would be very expensive to charter your own flight if you were to miss it. So I always encourage people to come in a day early. And so I'll organize some fun outings so that you can kind of start to get to know the country in which you're visiting. And like, we're going to go to the Arapaima farm and go check out, feed the Arapaima. And then we're going to go to the fish market, because Brazil boasts just so many different species of unique fish that you have never laid eyes on, and just the colors and the weird shapes of these fish. And so for fishermen, I think that that's just a lot of fun to be able to see them, even though that they're sitting there dead on ice. It's still amazing to see the great variety. And so we do things like that. And then together as a group, we'll fly to the lodge. Once there, all your meals are, included, 3 meals a day plus snacks. And then the guides that these different lodges across the world employ are just, second to none. And I would say 90% of the lodges that I host trips to, no matter what country, they speak English, and so they're able to communicate. I'm very particular about choosing lodges that have great teachers as guides, that can further you along in your skill sets.
That's great.
So, I mean, it's pretty great. These lodges have done a wonderful job, really catering to the traveling angler and making them feel really at home and safe and comfortable. But I do too really try to pull together groups that are like-minded, that are, somewhat similar, that I know that they're going to hit it off as friends. And not all trips are for all people. And so I might have somebody call me up saying, "Hey, Meredith, I really want to do your Bolivia trip in 2024. And the more that we might get to talk to each other, I might figure out that they are not maybe in the fittest of conditions, or they might have a medical condition which is not the perfect fit for this location, because it includes a ton of hiking, lots of wading. It's very challenging to do this kind of fishing. And so I'll say, hey, you know what? Bolivia might not be the right one for you for golden dorado, but if you really want golden dorado, hey, let's go down and wait for me to host a trip down to Pura Lodge down in Argentina, which is fishing strictly out of a boat, out of a flat skiff. And so that's where I feel like I bring my expertise to the table in gathering these groups, is making sure that this is the right fit and the right destination for that angler.
Makes sense. That's great. And yeah, it's great that you're able to do that. And it's not just a random group of people that show up and maybe, can't enjoy their time because it turns out they're not able to do the hikes or whatever that might be required to get to the fish that you're targeting. So, I see that you have, like you mentioned, the couples trip coming up in September. You also have a ladies trip in October in Mexico. So you do ladies only, and then I guess the rest are just mixed trips.
That's correct. I really, it's a funny story. If you had told me 5 years ago I'd be hosting lady only trips, I would have told you were crazy, because I said there's not enough ladies out there that want to do it. And plus, no one's going to want to fish for 6 days straight for 8 to 10 hours a day. I just don't know many women that want to do that. And I couldn't have been more wrong. And I am the first to admit, I misjudged my own sex. I had no idea. And I kept getting Instagram messages from women saying, hey, I want to go on a women's trip. I want to do this with you, but I would really feel more comfortable if it was women's only. And I just kept kind of saying, you know what? That's just not my jam. I kind of open it up to everyone. I like hanging out with the boys, or the men and whatever, but no, that's not really my thing. And the more emails I got, I had to start really considering it. And it was David Leake from Tailwaters out of Dallas, Texas, that said, Mare, please, will you just host a women's trip? And I said, okay, here's the crux. I will host a women's only trip if I get to pick where I go in the species. And I'm like, knowing the whole time I was going to choose permit. And no one was going to sign up for that, because anyone that pursues permit knows that you get gray hair. It's the hardest fish in the ocean to pursue. You're not often very successful. It's tough. It's not a feel good kind of fish, but man, when you do catch them, it's a really good feel good fish, but it's tough. And so I just knew that probably women would want to do something a little easier, more success driven, like trout or something. Well, I was wrong. Within 24 hours of hosting that trip, I was full. It was nuts. And within 2 weeks, I had a waiting list. Well, so that group of women, and I was like, oh man, okay, who are these girls? I mean, who would travel by themselves? Like, I just don't understand them. But they have, that group of 12 women, or 11 and myself, have ended up becoming the best of friends. They are like-minded women. Most of them very entrepreneurial, very independent. Just, some of them hadn't traveled before. Some of them have. And it was just the perfect smattering of personalities. I had everything from 26 to 56-year-olds on that trip. And I was a changed person. Wow. I couldn't believe these women, and they weren't done fishing when even the guide said, hey, we got to go in. They're like, well, we want to keep casting. And the success rate wasn't huge that first year. Now, since then, we've had a lot of success, and it's been really fun to be a part of these women's first permit or first tarpon, snook, bonefish, and the list goes on. But I'll tell you, even for this October's trip, I had a waiting list of 7, and the demand, it just kept getting more and more demand. So I went ahead and put another one on my books for next May that I just announced about 2 weeks ago, and trying to get those 7 that I had on the waiting list onto a trip with me. And so I still have 1 or 2 spots, or maybe 3 spots open on that one, which will be great because it includes migratory tarpon, which if you look at my Instagram, you can see I might have a slight obsession with migratory large, big tarpon. So
awesome. Well, that's such a special story, and I love when things like that come together, and it's almost like it's meant to be. And I'm sure you probably had that feeling where a lot of them felt like they'd known each other their whole lives, even though they're just meeting for the first time. I've had a couple experiences like that over the past couple of years, and that's just something you can't put a price on.
That is so true. And the friendships, I mean, we're still on text chain from that first original group that I'll tell you, my notifications go off at least every other day with someone saying happy birthday or congratulations, or them sharing fish that they've caught wherever they are in the world. And it's just such a cool support group. Almost. I mean, I hate to call it a support group, but it's just it's a group of peers, like-minded peers that have a similar strange passion for fly fishing.
And that was, I was going to ask, is this all strictly fly fishing then?
It is. It is. All my hosted trips are strictly fly fishing.
What kind of experience do you need to have going into one of these?
It really depends on the destination. Some require a little bit more skill set than other. For example, my Mexico, as well as I've hosted several times to South Andros Lodge in the Bahamas. Those really are wonderful for all skill levels, including beginners to, really expert level, because you can set your sights on what your skill levels are. So you can go after, like, for example, in Mexico and Bahamas, if you're just learning, you can't really cast well beyond 30 feet. You might go hit the schools of baby bonefish and can be very successful, learn how to strip set, learn how to play that little silver rocket, and then for those that are more experienced, they can target the more difficult species, or like in the Bahamas, the individual large tailing bonefish. And so that's what I love too, is finding those destinations that really cater to all levels. So I can bring together people like that. But then you've got something like Bolivia, which is, and Brazil, that does require a little bit more skill set to be able to throw a larger rod and a larger fly profile.
Gotcha. Well, people can go to your website, meredithmccord.com, to check out some of these destinations. I don't see that May one on here, but I guess people can just reach out via the contact form if they're interested.
Oh, it's not. Well, good. Thank you for letting me know it's not on there. It should be on there, but yes, they can reach out. It is the exact same information that you'll see for my October trip, but the dates are, let me tell you what the dates are. I can tell you right now. Give me a second. Mexico is May 5th through 12th, and that will be pursuing permit for those that really want to turn their hair gray. For a large tarpon, bonefish as well. And so it's just, I love it because it's a mixed bag and people can check the box on several species on that location. The other thing that's really unique about my Mexico trips and why I think that they're a wonderful destination for women is with every boat, you get 2 guides. So if one wants to stay in the boat and go chase permit, the other one can go walk and wade for bonefish with the other guide and practice casting. And that's really very, very unique and very special to have 2 guides working with you all the time.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah. I love that. I do want to touch on, you've got a lot of different aspects of your career, not just hosting trips, but, so many other things that you do, including public speaking. But one of the things I did want to touch on quick is chasing records. You've got quite a few records under your belt at this point. Where are you? Do you know what you're up to now even?
I don't. Somewhere around 225. It's give or take a few more maybe. But no, it's I know that sounds really spoiled, but it's hard to keep track. I love the challenge of it. And once I get it, that's out of my mind. And then I'm focusing on what can I go chase next. Unless someone like Kesley or another lady comes out and tries to beat my record, then I might have to go back and try to win it over again.
Yeah.
But it's so fun. I love the game. I don't play it all the time. I think I've only chased 2 records so far this year in 2022. But when I do, it's a fun challenge. It makes me a better angler. I've gotten really into the technical side of it as far as my gear and equipment, the startup inertia on my drag, the kind of the bend and the flex and where that flex is in my rod. And I could be totally speaking gibberish to some of y'all listening right now, but it's those things that I've loved, that it's challenged me to not only be a better angler, but to be a more educated angler in how I fight those fish. One of the things that I'm most proud of, because people often will give record chasers a bad rap, and it's to kill the fish. And that's just not the truth. Out of those 225 world records, my release rate, I think, is about 95%. I've kept a tuna, a couple of walleye. For those of you up in the north, you know walleye is delicious. You don't want to send that back. I've caught a couple of snapper offshore that I've eaten. So, yes, for the most part, 95% I've released back to swim another day. And the other thing that they think is, oh my gosh, you're playing those fish to death, you know. But my average fight time, I'm going to be real clear about this. My average fight time for all of those records, no matter if I'm using 2 pound up to 20 pounds, all of them combined is under 4 minutes.
Wow.
I'm landing those fish in under 4 minutes. And so for those that kind of say, oh, she's injuring or hurting the fish, I'm trying my best not to, and I think I'm landing them faster than the most average anglers land their fish on full, strength tackle.
I'd say so. Those are some pretty massive fish, and your own 2 pound test. That's pretty impressive.
It's fun. It's really fun. Now, they don't all. I've had some that I've played up to like 20 minutes, but for the most part, they've been a pretty fast turnaround.
Gotcha. Well, awesome. Well, I wish we could spend a little more time, and maybe we need to do this again, maybe revisit after your ladies' trip in Mexico. And we might be able to catch up a little bit and see how that goes, and maybe talk about some of this other stuff that you do as well. But
absolutely, I would love that. Thank you.
Yeah, and enjoy your time. I know you're going up north, so
well, thank you. And to anyone out there listening, I really am an open book, and I really encourage other women to reach out to me, ask me your questions. No question is dumb. In my book, we all started somewhere where we didn't know anything. So please ask, follow me on Instagram at Meredith McCord. And I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to see other people's pictures and what you're up to and what you're chasing and pursuing. And for any of those interested in chasing world records, I am competitive, but it's not about that. I also want to inspire. And so if you want to reach out to me and ask me questions about some of that technical stuff I was talking about of what I'm using to chase them, feel free. I'd love to share with you what I've learned over the years.
Awesome. Well, people can connect with you via the website, meredithmccord.com. You're also on Facebook, Meredith McCord Fishing, and Instagram at Meredith McCord. So pretty simple. I'll put links to all those in the show notes so people can find you. And thank you so much for taking some time out to chat today. And I can't wait for this episode to come out.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, and have a wonderful afternoon.
You too. Thank you.